What's up, chess player, and welcome to the Journey to Grandmaster, a place where you can improve every aspect of your chess game. We don't need classical chess anymore, and it's not my opinion, it's what two world strongest blitz chess players, Hikaru Nakamura and Magnus Carlsen, are saying with their fantastic game. I mean, if this game is not blowing your mind, you must be the most skeptical and boring man on the planet. 3 brilliant moves, 98.5% accuracy, numerous sacrifices, and a fantastic final blow. So let me show you why it's time to bury the classical chess. Three minutes plus 1 second, Magnus Carlsen as white, Hikaru Nakamura as black. The game starts with d4, knight f6, and let's just imagine for a second, if we completely ban the classical chess, how much more fun it's gonna be to play. Because you don't have that problem with opening a preparation anymore. If you have ever played the classical chess tournament, you know how painful, how difficult it might be to prepare for your next game. And then you're coming there and your opponent is just executing all of the computer moves till move 30 and you feel completely stuck here playing against the top engine. I mean, this problem simply doesn't exist if you switch to rapid and blitz chess, because you can come to every game with your favorite opponent and just enjoy game instead of suffering. So Magnus played here c4 and e6. A very flexible setup for black because there are so many different options to continue. You can play bishop b4, b6, bishop b7, which actually happened in this game. The queen's Indian defense. You can play d5, that's going to be a normal queen's gambit. You can play c5, so just an incredible variety of opportunities for black here. White played knight f3, which is one of the two main moves here. Normally, that indicates that you want to go for the Catalan opening, incredibly flexible for white as well, and that is what so many very strong players prefer nowadays. But Hikaru says, well, no Catalan opening for you today. I'm gonna play b6 and switch into the queen's Indian defense. g3, bishop goes to b7, and the idea is clear, just to make sure that this bishop is incredibly active along the diagonal. But bishop g2, bishop b4 check, bishop d2, and Hikaru swaps a few pieces here and there, because after knight c3 he also plays knight e4, and seems like the position is simplifying itself. But it's just an illusion. In just a few moves it's gonna explode. Queen d3, white is putting pressure on this knight, and you might say, of course, we can protect it with one of the pawns, but Hikaru decided just to swap one more pair of pieces off the board. But Magnus said, wait a minute, I have a chance here to make a brilliant move. So let's see if you can make a move like arguably the greatest player of all time. White's the move, pause the video for a second and try to find it. Okay, I hope you did. Knight to g5, ignoring the fact that, well, black just took the knight there on c3, just threatening checkmate in one with queen takes h7, and not only that, bishop on b7 is also hanging, so that is just the beginning of this fantastic game. Wait for the finish. So the only way for black to save the position, and hopefully you see it as well, if you don't, feel free to always pause the video for a second. As long as you do it, it's incredibly useful for yourself. So the only move is knight e4, a great move here, just giving up the knight back, but blocking this entire diagonal, because otherwise, if you block the checkmate, well, bishop b7 and it's 1-0. So what happened is knight e4, knight takes e4, and of course, now the threat is going back, and then once again the bishop is going to be exposed. So black plays knight to c6, developing yet another piece, because nobody canceled that very important principle. Development is the key in the opening. So knight c6 not only deals with the threat, also continues the development. Now it might jump to b4 at the right moment. The most important thing is knight g5 is no longer dangerous, because we just can take it with the queen and our bishop is safe. White plays castles, and here is the moment where Hikaru launches his attack with the move f5. And notice that once again he made sure that the king is more or less secure beforehand. He developed his pieces and now he's ready for it. And of course, it's not only to attack the knight, it's also to continue going on with this pawn. And let's see what happened next. Knight to c3, f4. Hikaru is trying to create some problems for Magnus, and that is the best tip from Hikaru you can learn. Try to create as many difficult tasks for your opponent as possible. Your main goal in chess is always to make your opponent's life as miserable as possible. So f4, let him feel that pressure, let him feel that you're coming after his king. So queen goes back to d2, and now queen to f6, just continuing the development, creating yet another thread. You see it, another thread with every single move, that is a key. So rook to d1, protecting it, knight a5. Well, there is quite an annoying pin here, the knight can't get anywhere because the bishop on b7 is hanging and that arrow was wrong. So knight to a5 has been played, trying to exchange those bishops. And by the way, imagine how much more show it would be if we switch from classical chess to more speed time controls, because it's going to be more entertaining for the spectators to view, which would eventually lead to increasing the prize money for chess players and everybody would be happy. Unfortunately, there is one little problem. If you do that, once again, the greatest players, like a handful of them, will get the entire chess pie and everybody else would be left with crackers. I mean, that is how the world works, but it's actually not that fair, because apart from the first like 50 players, for everybody else it doesn't really make that much sense to play chess, so they have to switch to a coaching career or maybe start a YouTube channel. Anyway, just from playing chess, it's literally almost impossible to make your living if you're out of the first 100 rated chess players. Now, back to the game. e3 has been played, probably a chance for Hikaru, and he uses it immediately, f3. And now the plan is very clear, you need to bring your queen to h3 and give a checkmate in 1. Now, try to understand how white can fight against this plan, because it's only the beginning of this crazy game. So there are multiple ways to fight against it. Magnus Carlsen played here the move e4 first, because he stops the move queen to f5. There is no direct way to get to h3, because queen h6 is of course gonna be a queen straight, and that would be a dream for white, because no longer there would be a checkmating threat for white, and this f3 pawn becomes a weakness in the endgame. So what happened is queen to g6, Hikaru tries to get to that square, or we are g4, and now Magnus plays h4. He says, well, you still can play queen g4 with a threat of queen to h3, but I have king to h2, and then there is no way for you to get in there. And here is a moment where Hikaru comes up with an incredible plan. So first he plays knight to d6. He improves his position and creates yet another threat, and not only one, two of them at the same time. It's even better. He attacks both pawns here, and that is very inconvenient for white to deal with. Well, seemingly the most obvious way to deal with it is queen to d3, and Magnus played it, but unfortunately it just doesn't go for Magnus. Try to find how Hikaru might use this queen to d3 move. I'm sure you have found it, because once you start to think about it, it seems like the most logical way to continue the attack, and rook to f4 has been played using the fact that g3 pawn is pinned, so it cannot take the rook, and otherwise the h4 pawn is hanging here. Magnus played rook f to e1 because he protects the e4 pawn. Well, that's the central pawn, the most important one, he thinks, so he does it, and that's the best move. But unfortunately, the position is entirely lost for white already, as surprising as it might seem. Just rook to a to f8, an incredibly important principle. You need to develop all of your pieces. As simple as that, you need to connect as many pieces as possible to your attack, not only just playing with one of your pieces, because you can play rook h4 right now, but that's gonna spoil your attack, because that allows queen takes f3, and then yes, you are still better, but it's not winning anymore. And this way, Hikaru just connects the last piece into the attack, and then try to deal with the threats, because still rook h4 is coming now. This second rook is protecting the f3 square, and how do you deal with that? Well, Magnus plays rook e3, says you can still take it, I have another attacker on the f3 square, and now the first brilliant move from Hikaru in this game comes, so try to pause the video for a second and find it, because you're gonna enjoy it so much. No, come on, that wasn't even a few minutes, you really need to think about it. I understand you just want to have fun, but if you don't want to improve your level, then just go straight to Gotham Chess channel, because here I really want you to help improve your level. I want to push you towards your limits. So once again, take your time and try to find the best move for black, make an educated guess what should be the best blow in this position. Now, you're finally ready to see this incredible, brilliant move. Knight takes c4, sacrificing the knight and deflecting the queen, because the queen, remember, it attacks the f3 pawn, and f3 pawn is a crucial one if you want to deliver a checkmate. So the knight is attacking the rook. It's not even about the pawn on c4, and nobody cares about the pawns. It's about who is going to deliver a checkmate in chess. And here it's only black who can do that, and knight c4 is the best way to get there. So knight takes c4, well, if you just leave it like that, I'm gonna just take your rook and then continue my plan. So Magnus decides to take on c4. Now, the next move is obvious. We take on h4. That was our goal. Rook to d3, once again attacking this f3 pawn, because that is the most important one. And now the second brilliant move comes. Once again, pause the video for a second. This time, seriously, just take your time and find this amazing final blow. Before I show you this amazing sacrifice, let me know in the comments what you think about the destiny of the classical chess. Should we really ban it and switch to more rapid time controls? Because Magnus Carlsen resigned from his World Chess Championship because the classical time control is so slow, he just can't handle it anymore. What is your opinion? It's very curious for me to know. So, queen takes g3 is a beautiful, brilliant move here, queen sacrifice just for a single pawn. Why? Well, because Hikaru wants to eliminate this f2 pawn from the board. It doesn't allow this star, this f3 major pawn for black to move forward. So it's okay to sacrifice your queen for that, because afterwards, pawn takes, you go f2, and there is no way to stop the pawn promotion and the checkmate afterwards. King g2, f1, queen immediately is a checkmate. If you try to block it, that is, of course, a smart thing to do, but unfortunately, there is rook to h1, king g2, once again checkmate, king e1, well, f1, queen, and next move is going to be a checkmate. Queen c1, and then rook e1, checkmate. So Magnus resigned. So here you have it, absolutely fantastic chess battle. And let me remind you, it's 3 minutes plus 1 second game. Why on earth would you need classical chess if players are capable of playing something like that under such a time pressure? Well, by players, I of course mean the one and only Hikaru Nakamura. And if you really want to know how it feels to play a blitz game against Hikaru, well, in this video I share with you the whole truth, my own experience, how I outplayed Hikaru in the middle game, and he was absolutely shocked with it. But in the end of the day, it's Hikaru, so this game is absolutely fantastic. Definitely take a look at it.